and Devaki warned him that he was a fool and he would be killed by the eighth son of this couple. So here he was already upset, and stayed Kansa, and was always thinking about this eighth son somehow. He almost killed his sister had the husband not jumped in and tried to make sense of the situation. Kansa would have actually succeeded and killed. Well, I don't know about succeed, but he would have definitely made the attempt to kill, real serious attempt to kill David. So demons are like that. They don't like their sense gratification messed with. And so things just unfolded until it got to the point where many of the demonic kings have been gotten rid of. And demons had come, even to Vrindavan, to try to get rid of Krishna. It didn't work. Krishna finally went to Mathura and got rid of Kansa. It was also a very, very interesting fight there about restless and first fighting, and Krishna Balaram killing all of them. And finally, Kansa himself. Kansa is very strong. Very, 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 very strong. And he had done austerities to get the bow that he was using. That was Lord Vishnu's bow. So he was physically very strong. As a matter of fact, in the Garga Samhita, it's been known, that all these demons that he sent to Vrindavan, they were demons that fought him first. Demons didn't say, "Oh yeah, you're Kansa king, therefore whatever you order me, I'll do." No, they don't look themselves as servants like that. We have to defeat them first. And Kansa was actually able to defeat them. So all of them, basically based on what had happened, the demons knew Kansa was stronger than them. And in fact, in Garga Samhita, it's described in one of the fights involved using mountains. Then when I read it, I was kind of surprised, but this is how much strength that Kansa was very, 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 very strong. And so some of the fights involve using mountains practically. Anyway, we know of another demon, Banasura. He had so many, he had 1,000 arms, and he would pulverize mountains. And so, the demons could, in fact, use mountains or test their strength against mountains. Those were there. Anyway, as Krishna got rid of so many of these demons, and then finally the Kurukshetra war was organized. And of course, he's in the heart of everyone, so he knows how people think. And finally, he knew Karna would want the war, and Duryodhana would want the war. So they had the war, but the war was actually to get rid of all these demons who were causing trouble on the earth. Mother Bhumi did not like that at all. So in the fight itself, there were so many incidents that happened. This is Mahabharata, it's the fight itself, so many, many turns. And some of it is described here by Srila Prabhupada. The point that Arjuna was making underneath all of this was a point of appreciation. Generals like Bhishma, Karna, and the rest of them, they directed their invincible weapons against me, meaning Arjuna. So normally, if Krishna's protection was not there, Arjuna could have been killed by at least one of them. But he said, by Lord Krishna's grace, they could not even touch a hair on my head. Krishna was directing, he was a chariot driver. And he wasn't just standing one place and having Arjuna fight. He was moving the chariot in different ways so expertly that even these invincible weapons could not get to Arjuna. And Arjuna also had been trained well. And of course, the Lord's in the heart of everybody directing, and he was also outside now as the chariot driver and directing Arjuna on what to do. So Krishna is always on the side of his devotee. All we have to do is remain devoted and not get off the path of this royal path of devotion. But Krishna will be there to protect us. He said so many times, it's been said so many times, this text in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, the perfection of renunciation, text 65, Man mana bhava bhakto, mat yajimam namaskuru, always think of the Lord. Now, thinking of the Lord is wonderful. Even higher than thinking of the Lord is having great faith in the Lord. You can think of something or someone based on some property that they have or some things about them that attracts you. But for Krishna, we have to have great faith as devotees in him. In other words, we have to trust Krishna. It's not a matter of just believing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We actually have to trust so much that we put all our thoughts and all our, this basically my existence is, that the thought we should have, my existence is under the control of Krishna, and that's the way I want it. There's no one else I can trust better than Krishna. Therefore, I trust Guru, because Krishna has said in Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi Panipatena Paripashnena Sevaya. Upadeshanti te jnanam janinas tasvadashina. Krishna said that. Krishna said, go to Guru and inquire from him and render service to him. So if we trust Krishna, then because our immense trust in Krishna, then we treat his representative the same way Krishna wants us to treat him. And he also said that the way that we submit to him, Krishna, meaning that the way we submit to his instruction, he will reward accordingly. So that everybody's on my path. Well, he owns all the energy, so everybody is on his path. Either the spiritual path or the way the demonic people take the material path. The material path leads to suffering and leads nowhere. Whereas the spiritual path, if you're in the material world and you follow the spiritual path, you will be liberated. You get a chance to go back to the spiritual world. But by following the instructions given by Guru, because Krishna says we should follow the instructions. And Guru has been given the knowledge and is the representative of Krishna, given the knowledge by Krishna. And so much is there that we can use in order to live our life. And when we hear consistently, and if we have time, hear for hours, if you have the time. But at least hear every day and read the books. Srila Prabhupada says, I will never die. I will always be present in my books. So when we read Srila Prabhupada's books, one of the things that it does is it makes us get detached from the material world and material activities. Srila Prabhupada, one way or the other, points out in practically every lecture how temporary this place is and how much suffering there's there also. You can never be really satisfied. The spiritual world has all that we need. The spiritual world is set up, beautiful, effulgent, and desires are met by the Kalpavriksha trees. It's all love. You don't have to work to get anything. But we're sitting in the material world, which provides some material things for this physical body, but you can't just take them. You have to work for them. Things have been divided here, there, and so on. In the spiritual world, we live in palaces, and the walls are decorated with touchstone, made of touchstone. And we're sitting here trying hard, thinking that if we have some money, enough money or some leftover so that all the bills can be paid, then we are okay. But you don't pay any bills in the spiritual world. So what's better? Hmm? There is death here in the material world. There is no death in the spiritual world. So in our own way, we can also appreciate this very high transcendental information. This knowledge gives us the right mindset for living in this world. And to add to what Arjuna has said, he mentions all these generals by name and said they couldn't even get to me because of Krishna's protection. By Lord Krishna's grace, they couldn't touch a hair of my head. So the point here is, when we obey Krishna's instructions, then by his grace, we will also be protected. The more we trust, the more we see Krishna's hand in things that happen every day. Things that happen in the short term, we see short-term miracles. Sometimes we see miracles that unfold over a period of time, but you get the sense that Krishna is there as a Lord in the heart, helping us and protecting us every step of the way. We have to have great trust in Krishna, like Arjuna had. This is not an Arjuna property only. Everybody can have great trust in Krishna. You trust him that in all situations. And if we trust Krishna fully, then we'll devote every day to Krishna. That please handle it the way you would like to, because I trust. That is surrender. So surrender could be of two kinds. Like the first type is like, say, there's a war and two factions are fighting. And one set of soldiers are able to defeat the other ones. And they are losing. The losing side decides to wave a white flag and says, all right, I surrender. So then they are captured as prisoners of war. That's one form of surrender. That's not the surrender Krishna is talking about. The surrender that Krishna is talking about is like your own 2-year-old child that depends on you. Say you go somewhere, even the temple, there are other adults sitting, and your child, 2, 3 years old, he comes to the door, he went somewhere else, he comes to the door. First thing, where's my father? Where's my mother? These are all of these adult devotees sitting. And then he would just immediately make a beeline straight to one of the parents and sit on their lap, and the parent offers love to the child, and the child feels secure. That is the type of surrender, as close as we can, come as an example to Krishna. The child trusts the father completely, or the mother completely. And the mother or the father gives loving words to the child. That is the surrender that we need to develop. Krishna does in fact protect, but we have our own free will. And therefore, sometimes when we want to do things just like business as usual, my Guru Maharaj likes to put it as business as usual, then many times we don't see Krishna's hand in things that happen. But he's there. He's always there. He says everybody's following his path. But when we turn our attention to him and give full trust to him that he is the supreme controller, just like Lord Brahma said, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. And Lord Brahma would know. He's told us, and we have to not only believe that, but give our minds and our hearts to him fully, Krishna, trust in him. So Arjuna is saying here, in many words, that I appreciate what the Lord has done for me, because without him, I could not have fought this battle of Kurukshetra the way, or things wouldn't have happened the way they did. But by the Lord's protection, these great generals that many other soldiers couldn't stand, and they in fact killed so many other soldiers, couldn't even touch one hair of Arjuna. Same, similar situation. Hiranyakashipu, very, very powerful demon also tried to kill a 5-year-old son, his own son, 5 years old. Still, by the grace of the Lord, he was saved from all sorts of dangerous actions that were put forth by his father, thrown off a cliff, from the top of a hill, off a cliff, thrown, put in a fire, put in boiling oil, and he was put in a pack of elephants. He was given poison, and he was still Prahlad all of the time, remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when finally Hiranyakashipu was going to try to kill him himself, but as Krishna would arrange a conversation, and as Prahlad would always speak to his father, putting Vishnu in front of his father in terms of power. Finally, Hiranyakashipu takes the sword and destroys a pillar because Prahlad had said the Lord is everywhere. And to prove that he is everywhere, so that his devotee statement is not in vain, Hiranyakashipu appeared from the pillar. And then, really, first he toyed with this big, very early thinking that he could defeat everybody because he had defeated demigods. Hiranyakashipu was that strong. But Krishna played with him, as Shinga did, and then finally killed him and killed all the soldiers too. So the devotee will be protected by the Lord. No one can kill the devotee of the Lord. The devotee of the Lord leaves the body on the sanction of the Lord, not on the sanction of the demons. So that protection is there, and that protection should engender trust, full trust in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Arjuna was also saved by the Lord. And in the case of Prahlad, he came in such a way that all of the boons that were given by Lord Brahma to Hiranyakashipu were never violated. And still, Krishna was able to get rid of Hiranyakashipu. So he would even go to the extent of coming to protect his devotee without being blamed in any way, because none of the boons that Hiranyakashipu got were violated. This is the trouble that Krishna takes. And if we have a father like that, then we have to put all our trust in him. And whatever he says, we do. Whatever he says, we do. Some of these other kings and princes, yes, they were doing so many things in their own life. Karna is mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, some of the things that he did. He had so much rivalry with Arjuna, and he also would have very much liked to have Draupadi. And so when it came to the point where Shakuni arranged this gambling, and Yudhishthira agreed to offer Draupadi as a bet, then the old grudge in Karna was awakened, and he was giving very, very bad advice to both Dushasan and to Duryodhana, including stripping this wonderful lady, Draupadi, naked. Again, Krishna came to the rescue by supplying endless amount of cloth. So many situations here show how wonderful Krishna is when we put our trust in him. And so we have to appreciate the Lord and appreciate his promises and his following through to protect his devotee. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 18, the translation is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the controller of immortality and fearlessness. immortality, and fearlessness. He is the controller. And he is transcendental to death and the fruitive actions of the material world. Hmm? So Narada, he was being addressed, O Narada, O Brahmana, it's therefore difficult to measure the glories of the Supreme Person. He is the controller of immortality and fearlessness. He's the controller of everything. Hmm? So when we have the Supreme Personality of Godhead being the controller of fear, the devotee that trusts him and relies on him the way a 2-year-old would rely on the father or the mother for protection, there's no need to fear. And if anything, we should be so very much appreciative of the way Krishna protects his devotees. And the way is open. Krishna says, Krishna is like the sun, it's open. If you turn your face away from the sun, that's you. But devotees, if you face the sun, then you get the effect of the sunshine. So we should have an attitude of appreciation, because appreciation draws one closer to Krishna and to the devotees. When we appreciate Krishna, it makes it easy for us to think of Krishna all of the time. And when we think of Krishna, it makes us happy internally, because that's what wakes up the soul. It makes us perform devotional service with great enthusiasm and devotion. And it helps us to jumpstart the development of love for Krishna. We need Krishna Prema. This is where the happiness is. And when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in appreciation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Guru, we would chant being very happy, chant in bliss. We also feel secure and very trusting of Krishna, just like we talked about the way a 2-year-old feels when they're in a place and they find their parent, how much they latch onto their parent and feel protected. So when we trust Krishna, then our confidence will increase that Krishna will protect us. And so Arjuna described his situation wonderfully, looking back at the Kurukshetra war and mentioning some of the great generals by name, and said they couldn't even touch me because of Lord Krishna's grace. So that's a lesson for us. The Lord's grace is there for everyone. And if we will actually be truthfully and in a determined way connect with the mercy of the Lord by trusting him and serving him and doing things based on his instructions from Guru and Gauranga, then our life will be successful. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Very nice class.
Krishna's mercy.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Just a realization. I mean, we always hear about how careful we should be about offenses. And I heard you react when you were reading the offenses of Jayadratha and again and again and again. But, you know, when Krishna is on the side of the devotees, and some people did realize that, I think at the end of the purport you read that Bhurishrava or one of them said, Krishna is on their side, so don't keep attacking them. And that is what we need to remember, that we have to be very careful when we are dealing with devotees is, be careful with the offenses, and how you are relating with them is as important as remembering Krishna. Being careful about the offenses.
Very important point. that you make. Yes. I'm also trying to look it up. I think you're right about one who told.
I think it was Dhaumya Muni. But you know, name is.
That he was the one that saw. Sometimes I get confused with these names myself. But I highlighted a few things here. Dronacharya rebuked. Okay, well that's. Let me see.
It was.
Yeah, it is Burishrava, called Napta. Napta or Burishrava. So they all appreciated the wonderful strength of Arjuna. You know, Burishrava did. So then he advised sons of Dhritarashtra not to pick a quarrel or fight with them. This is based on Arjuna's, expertise and Arjuna's strength. But the fact was that they were also cousins. But the demons didn't care about that part. So yeah, it was very good advice on the part of Burishrava. Yeah, it was Burishrava that said not to pick fight. But of course, Gandhari had also said a long time to her husband, don't bring this war. So many people warned him, but he had to lose his sons to find out that. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada says a little more about, but in the beginning of the lecture, about the same situation about fighting, that Dhritarashtra really wanted the war. He wanted the war because he knew that his sons were numbered 100 and the Pandavas were only 5. So they were way outnumbered as far as his sons and the Pandavas' sons. But he wanted the war, which Srila Prabhupada actually explained that, and this is a different beginning of Bhagavad Gita, he was talking about that when sometimes even disagreeing parties disagree, go to a temple, you're both there at the same time, because of the wonderful spiritual atmosphere in the temple, sometimes they are able to settle their differences. And rather than bring it to a long and maybe unfortunate end, they can settle their differences. And he said that in the same way, the Battle of Kurukshetra is a holy land, a place of pilgrimage. And so Dhritarashtra was concerned that maybe when the Pandavas and the Kauravas get to that place, and Kurukshetra being the place that is holy, that they may want to talk the matter over and not even have the war. And that's why in the very first text in Bhagavad Gita, Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, Samayeta Yusava, Mamaka, Pandavas, Taiva, Kimagu, Akurvata, Sanjaya, what did they do? He's asking Sanjaya, what did they do? Were they really, really going to get into the fighting, or was this matter going to be settled? So there is that effect of the transcendental atmospheres in churches, in the temples, and also in the holy places. So he brought that up. Srila Prabhupada brought that up to explain why Dhritarashtra was wanting to find out whether they really were going to fight. But he was confident that his sons outnumbering the Pandavas, that they would win eventually. They had also 11 Akshohinis to 7 Akshohinis for the Pandavas. So the soldiers still outnumbered the soldiers fighting the Pandavas, fighting for the Pandavas. Still, when the Lord is in your end, in your corner, then very, 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 very likely, 100%, that if the only way in which a devotee would not be protected is if he himself or he or she does not want to come under the protection of the Lord. So we have to be, as you said, very, very careful about offenses, and also trusting. We have to be trusting to everything that Krishna said and follow that, and our life will be quite simple. The spiritual life is simple for those who are simple, and simple people are obedient to the Lord. Hare Krishna. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. I am thinking, when I'm seeing this in the Dhritarashtra situation, he always thought, because his son has lots of like soldiers, he's going to win. He always thought.
You mean,
So,
do you mean Duryodhana thought that way?
Dhritarashtra.
Dhritarashtra thought, yes.
Duryodhana is going to win. But
Mhm.
I compare this to our situation in this material world. We know we will never be satisfied with the material things, but still we keep on wanting things and never satisfied. So I think that our situation is like the Dhritarashtra situation. never, not real.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is the nature of this world that we live in. We should be very much connected with Krishna consciousness and be eager to do activities in Krishna consciousness rather than do this material, because material will never satisfy us. No matter what we do, never satisfy. Anxiety never goes away. The big lesson to live here in the material world. So we should be very appreciative of what Srila Prabhupada has left for us. So many books, so many instructions, so many direct instructions to disciples we can learn from, and so many lectures that he has given where he breaks down the points that he himself has given in the purport. He breaks them down in lectures. There's so much now that's all been recorded that we can use to be on the right path the whole time, because then the protection will come automatically. And then we'll feel loved and cared for by Krishna. The people like thinking like Dhritarashtra, that would not be on our radar at all, because then we would not look to offend any devotees of the Lord, and for that matter, anyone, anyway. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna, good comment. Any other comments or questions?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Pariksit Prabhu, for being
Yes, sir.
flexible this month and changing days. We'll go back to your
No problem.
But
No problem.
again, very important points for us to dwell on again.
Okay.
So we will see everybody this evening for the Prabhupada Leela night, and then tomorrow morning at 7:50 for another Bhagavatam class.
Jai. Panchakapatrubhischa kripa snubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Pariksit Prabhu. Great
Thank
class.
you. Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy. Jai.
It's always a blessing to hear from you.
It's a blessing to hear from you also. You give class at Harrisburg. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.